Most people we call millionaires aren't what most of us imagine when we hear that word. At least not once you strip out the value of their home. On paper, they look wealthy. A nice house, a seven-figure net worth, a box checked on a spreadsheet. But remove home equity from the equation, and the picture often changes fast. To understand why, you have to start with what the word millionaire actually means. By definition, a millionaire is anyone whose net worth totals $1 million or more. Net worth is simply everything you own that has value, minus everything you owe. That includes homes, cars, businesses, investments, collectibles, jewelry, even obscure things like art or stamp collections, minus debts like mortgages, loans, and credit cards. Some people argue about what should or shouldn't count. They'll say assets don't matter if you can't sell them quickly, or that illiquid things shouldn't be included. But that's not how net worth works. Net worth doesn't care how fast something sells or how convenient it is to access. If it has value and you own it, it's part of the calculation. What those critics are usually talking about is something different: investable wealth. An investable asset millionaire is someone who has at least $1 million in assets that can be easily converted to cash. This typically includes bank balances, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, retirement accounts, and similar investments. Things like homes, cars, businesses, or collectibles are usually excluded because they're harder to sell quickly, and their values can fluctuate or be uncertain. That distinction matters more than most people realize. According to recent data from UBS Global, roughly 24 million people in the United States have a net worth of $1 million or more. That sounds massive, about 7% of the population, or roughly 9% of adults. But that figure includes everything, especially home equity. Once you remove the value of primary residences and focus only on liquid, investable assets, the number drops sharply. Only about 2.3% of adults, roughly 6 million people, actually have $1 million or more in investable wealth. In other words, the vast majority of millionaires reach that milestone largely because of their home, not because they have $1 million working for them in cash or investments. Put differently, maybe 2 out of every 100 people you pass at the grocery store, on the highway, or at the airport have $1 million in assets they could realistically access and use, and you probably wouldn't be able to spot them. If your home equity has pushed your net worth past the $1 million mark, that's still an achievement. Homes are expensive, and building equity requires years of consistency and discipline. But equity isn't the same as usable money. You can't easily spend it, invest it, or live off it unless you sell your home, borrow against it, or restructure your living situation. Until then, it's wealth on paper, not wealth in your pocket. This is where the real difference shows up, the difference between net worth rich and financially independent. Imagine a couple in their 60s who owns a $750,000 home outright but only has $250,000 in savings and investments. On paper, they're millionaires. In reality, they still need income to survive. Bills, healthcare, taxes, and maintenance don't stop just because the mortgage is gone. Now compare that to someone renting an apartment who has $900,000 invested in index funds and $100,000 in cash. That person may not own property, but they could potentially stop working tomorrow and still cover their expenses indefinitely. Both qualify as millionaires, but only one has real financial flexibility. That uncomfortable truth gets lost when we obsess over net worth alone. Net worth is broad. It includes everything: the house, the car, the furniture, retirement accounts, and even the clutter in the garage. But if you want to understand true financial security, a better question is this: how much money does someone actually have working for them? Even better than net worth is passive income. Someone might own a business valued at over $1 million and earn $300,000 a year from it, yet still not have $1 million in liquid assets. Their total net worth might be well above 7 figures, but their accessible wealth tells a different story. For most people, the biggest gap between total net worth and liquid net worth comes from housing. In many cases, the home is the single largest asset they own, sometimes the only meaningful one. A modest retirement account and a little savings don't compare to the value locked inside the house. That's partly by design. Home ownership has long been encouraged because it forces saving, builds equity, and provides stability. It's a powerful wealth-building tool. But it's not a substitute for income-producing assets. You can't pay medical bills with your driveway, you can't fund emergencies with drywall, and unless you're willing to sell, downsize, or borrow, you can't live off your equity. This becomes especially clear in retirement. Many people retire with net worths that look impressive on paper, yet struggle financially. A large portion of their wealth is tied up in their home, while their income is limited to pensions, social security, and modest savings. They spend carefully, delay maintenance, and watch every dollar, despite technically being wealthy. Home equity gives options, but it isn't spending money unless you convert it into cash. Meanwhile, someone who consistently invested, maxed out retirement accounts, and built liquid assets may not own property at all, yet enjoys real financial freedom. Their assets generate income. Their money works whether they do or not. That's why communities focused on financial independence care far more about liquid net worth than property values. Appreciation doesn't pay the bills. Cash flow does. Real financial security doesn't come from looking wealthy on paper, it comes from balance, combining home equity with liquid assets and income-producing investments. Without that balance, many people end up house-rich and cash-poor, technically wealthy, but still financially constrained. And that's the difference between having wealth that looks impressive and wealth that actually gives you freedom.